You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up the better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the third part of What If Naruto Meets Chaotic. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of pyrohelixdrago on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. With Naruto. What happened to you? Kaz asked as Naruto smelled worse than Dactyl's nest when he shed his scales. The queen made me an honorary Danian, get your scanners and let's go. Naruto said in annoyance. You met the queen. Sarah said in total envy and jealousy and by the fact he was an honorary Danian, but given how bad he smelled that wasn't a good thing. Yeah, now I need a shower, come on. Naruto said as they were released and went to Odyubathax. Why are the humans dash? Odyubathax was saying till he saw Princess Asel and kneeled. Asel thought looking between Naruto and the battlemaster. Naruto scanned the plasma pounder as it was an impressive piece of gear. You should scan him, while you have the chance, he said to the others as this Danian was strong, he would have more of a challenge with him than he did with Rothar. The others looked curious but did as told as they got a cool scan of Odyubathax, this location, and the gear. Naruto, while I'm grateful you saved my life, I'd like to see your skills in action, Odyubathax. Asel said getting her battlemaster's attention, I'd like you to spar with this human, she said shocking everyone. Every DMN time. Naruto thought as every time he met royalty or a leader, he ended up fighting someone, can I get some time to prepare, he asked her getting a nod. Few minutes later. Dude, why are we still here, we should be bailing. Peyton said to him. If we leave after a challenge like that has been issued, none of us will be welcome at Mount Pillar. Naruto said to them. Is anyone? Sarah asked as this was a suicide in her mind. Can you actually win? Kaz asked him curiously. Naruto looked at Odyubathax, seeing him stretch, possibly, he said as with Rothar it was easy as he focused his chakra into his feet and hands allowing him to counter the behemoth's incredible strength, but given how agile Odyubathax was, he needed to move just as fast needing to use his chakra and his legs for speed, and his exoskeleton is literal armor, he thought as if he was going to land a blow. He needed to make sure it was a strong and well thought out blow. He can't win in a fight with a battlemaster. Sarah said wondering why they were seemingly allowing him to march to his death. Naruto, don't you think, you should? Tom asked trailing off. Naruto knew what Tom was hinting at and if it were anyone else he had said no, but ever since coming to Chaotic and ever since that first battle with Tom he had come to like this group, they reminded him of the principles his village followed. I'm human, but I come from a world where people can do things similar to creatures. Recently I fought Rothar and won, he said seeing their shock and disbelief more so from Sarah and Peyton. He made a clone of himself. Peyton and Sarah freaked out in shock and so did the guards and Odyubathax. Listen, I'll explain when we get to Chaotic, just relax. Naruto said as he went into the ring. Asel looked curious wondering what Naruto would do. I don't know what you are human, but I'll enjoy making you bleed. Odyubathax said as when Naruto made a copy of himself he took Naruto a bit more seriously than the average human. Right back at you. Naruto said seeing him toss away his battle gear. Okay, let's keep it even, he said throwing his pouch toward Sarah thinking she was the least curious. If you pull something out of there, there is a literal chance you can blow up and die, he said as he had exploding tags in there. Sarah gently put the pouch down and pushed it aside not wanting it to go off on her. Everyone watched in silence as both charged at each other. I'm barely faster than he is, even with my chakra. Naruto thought as Odyubathax was similar to Rock Lee in terms of agileness and almost as fast as he was. Everyone watched as Naruto punched Odyubathax in the chest. They all saw the battle MSTR's chest shake upon contact. "Not bad kid, my troops could learn from a punch like that," Odyubathax said, complimenting the hit as he felt it through his exoskeleton. "But I ain't that weak," he said, punching Naruto in the face. Everyone, even the Danian soldiers, winced as that hit, as they had been on the receiving end of the battle MSTR's wrath. Naruto was sent back a bit, but he didn't stop. He returned the jab and aimed it for Odyubathax's eye. Everyone watched as the two literally beat the SHT out of the other, Naruto showing the most damage. Asel watched as it was impressive, as given how strong Odyubathax was, he rarely felt damage from less physically able creatures. The fact Naruto made him feel anything was a testament to that strength. While not a warrior, she did notice a pattern. He's striking the same spot, she thought, as in between blows he hit Odyubathax right in his chest. "I need to keep hitting that spot," Naruto thought, as if he could break his armor, he stood a chance of winning. The chaotic players watched as Naruto's BLD kept being spilt and hitting the ground. "How is he taking so many punches?" Peyton said in total shock, as just one would have been enough to knock him out. "I don't think he can keep going," Kaz said nervously as he looked at the ground, seeing Naruto's spilt BLD. "Come on Naruto, kick his butt," Sarah said, cheering for him, getting odd looks from the others. "We might as well cheer. He got us out and I don't want Odyubathax to win," she said to them. They were all stunned when Odyubathax was forced to take a step back. They soon saw his chest had cracks in the center and teal-colored BLD began to leak out of it. "And now I know I can return the favor," Naruto said, wiping the BLD from his face. Odyubathax glared at him, throwing another punch, but to his and everyone's shock, Naruto dodged it. "I've seen your moves, the way you attack, I can predict your moves," Naruto said with a bloody grin, throwing a punch to the damaged chest. Everyone watched as the battle changed from a bloody fistfight to a now one-sided brawl. Naruto was able to now dodge Odyubathax easily and predict his moves like he had seen them all. If he was a Danian, he would have earned the title of Battle MSTR. Asel thought, as that kind of combat adaptability was rare, even for battle masters. Odyubathax clutched his chest, unable to continue. He saw Naruto tower over him, and given how he himself was vicious to his men and opponents, he didn't expect a sliver of mercy, but to his shock Naruto held out his hand to him and helped him up. "Let's call this a draw," Naruto said to him, "but next time, I won't go so easy on you," he said jokingly. Odyubathax recognized his comment as a joke the moment he realized this child was a warrior. He took his arm, grabbed him by the wrist, and shook it like a warrior. Everyone was shocked by this interaction. Later at Chaotic. "Dude, you live here?" Peyton said in shock, as Naruto's cabin was large. It was like a homey version of the port court. He had his own table where he could dock his scans, a transmat circle, a large plasma screen that was connected to the live feeds of the matches, and a drone that seemed on standby waiting for him. And this was just the living room. This place also had another floor and more rooms on this one. "Yeah, I sent your scanners the access code to get here," Naruto said, as this was built a good distance behind Krellin's drome. No one walked past the drome, so he was in the clear. "Dude," Peyton said, looking at a door. "You have a basement?" he asked in shock. "This place is fully furnished, Peyton. Also don't touch anything with Japanese writing, you could die," Naruto said to him seriously. "What do you have in there?" Sarah asked, as Naruto said it could explode. "We'll get to that later," Naruto said to them as he began to explain where he was from. 1 hour later. "You met a codemaster," they all yelled in surprise. "Yeah, Krellin, he gave me a scanner and a starter deck and 2 scans as well," Naruto said to them. "So, you've been trapped here?" Tom asked, as that sounded horrible as that could have been him, but not as lucky. "Just between here and Param, I can't go to Earth like you," Naruto said, as he felt he would be absolutely bored on Earth. "Hey, I just got an idea, let's scan Naruto," Peyton said to them, getting slapped by Sarah. "He's a human moron," Sarah said, as he did it anyway and it failed. "Hey wait, can you use chakra in a drone match?" she asked, curious if he could. No, the creature I am inhabiting can't use chakra and my chakra is contained inside as the code acts like a shell. Naruto said as he tried in the beta drone. Hey, can you teach us chakra? Peyton asked him in excitement. It'd take years to do so and even if you could I can't really sense any from you guys. Naruto said wondering if it was because they were technically code or if people of this world didn't have chakra coils either was interesting. Listen chill here while I go boil my own skin, he said still smelling like puke. The others nodded. Is it wrong that I hate him for getting the Queen Alexia scan? Sarah asked as Naruto ported his scanner in and the scan was top quality. The Queen's music counters counted as mandiblores, that was an amazing ability and would give any Danian player an edge. After the beating he took. Kaz asked curious if she was serious right now. Sarah had to concede to that point. They all waited as Naruto later came out of the shower. Are you wearing body spray? Sarah asked curiously. I literally stood in hot water and the smell is still on me, it's a pheromone marker. Naruto said as he had to go to some extremes as he didn't want to smell that bad in public. Wish I had that. Sarah said enviously. You'd lose it the moment you went home. Naruto said to her making her admit he had a point. Hey at least with you we got an all-access pass to Mount Pillar. Peyton said excitedly. Sarah brightened at that prospect as now she had a friend that was basically an all-access pass to her favorite place and soon even she would be able to get a Queen Alexia scan. Dude this pad is like a mansion, you wouldn't happen to be accepting roommates would you? Peyton asked curiously. I was actually wondering something similar, do you mind if I store gear here for my camping trips? Tom asked having often staked out locations for creatures. Oh can I do the same? Kaz asked often having to get materials for getting Drakdal's scales. Sure come over whenever. Naruto said hiding his happiness at having people aside from Krellin visit. 1 week later at Iron Pillar. Can I ask how a creature doesn't know locations, but we do? Naruto asked as Iron Pillar was a unique location he asked Ajitos about it as he said all the metal from it somehow tied into the energy of the location bonding with it and emitting waves that disrupted the power sources of battle gear. Zerv is kinda crazy he spends all his time running through the storm tunnel. Kaz said as Zerv wasn't the brightest bulb in the overworld. That sounds kinda cool. Naruto said to himself wondering if he should scan the storm tunnel and put Zerv through it, possibly learn some secrets to the location. He had used the winds against Enga in their last battle, so it would be useful to know more. At least we got more scans than of just this place. Tom said as they got a creature and battle gear as well. Base of Mount Pillar. The deal is off. Perithian said to his sometimes human associate, he grumbled as she took his binoculars pulling his neck and she soon let go cursing the chaotic players she saw. He looked up and spotted one of them. Interesting, maybe the deal isn't off, he said seeing her look at him oddly. That human, the blonde one, I have heard some interesting things about him, tell me what you know and the deal holds, he said seeing her nod. A creature interested in a human? Christella thought to herself as that was odd, if it was one creature that would be understandable, but for a human to have rumors about them was the most oddest thing. She looked up at Iron Pillar again and noticed it was the infamous black scanner. Next day. Christella had been eyeing Naruto curiously. She had seen his battle record. He had a lot of wins and a few losses. He lost to some noticeable names like Herculeon, a rematch against Enga, Sarah in a pure Danian battle recently, and some one-on-one battles here and there. She had heard that he was one of the players trapped here, and so far she wondered if that was true. She soon saw Clay walking by with a new player. A kid at that. It was kind of a low-scale thing to steal from children, but she didn't care. She saw Naruto and Tom approach him stopping his jacking of the kids' cards. You both should mind your own business. Clay said angry and bitter. How about you be a man and get your own scans instead of ripping people off, though given what I've seen, you're only half a man. Naruto said seeing they were drawing a crowd. Big talk from the infamous black scanner, what are you gonna do about it? Clay asked tauntingly. Easy, give it a second. Naruto said as people started making noise. Everyone watched as Codemaster Hotek arrived. Is there a problem? Hotek asked them. Clay was scamming another player and I stopped him, but I am done with him. Clay tried to kill me with battle gear. Naruto said loudly. That's a lie, it was just a flux bauble. Clay said to Hotek. So you admit to using battle gear on another player, interesting. Hotek said almost flatly, he was one of the code masters that pushed the rules, playing and sometimes manipulating his opponents. It was their own fault for their own choices, so when Clay tricked people into giving him all their cards that was on them and out of his hands, but he never tolerated cheating in matches or anything underhanded like that. Clay soon realized his error in wording and shut his trap. Codemaster Hotek, I want to challenge Clay to an all-out chaotic battle. He wins, his slate gets wiped clean. Naruto said to him. And should he lose? Hotek asked him, wondering what Naruto wanted. Easy, all the scans he acquired in trades go back to the original owners and he gets banned from chaotic. Naruto said as many people cheered for him. How is that a fair punishment? Clay said in anger, before calming himself as he saw whom he was talking to. Using battle gear on a player is a serious crime in chaotic. Hotek said as tricking people into porting to locations was one thing, but actively trying to harm them was another thing entirely, and he would not tolerate player killers. Should he or anyone make another claim like that and it can be proven, you would have been banned. This way you have a chance to wipe the slate clean, he said, looking to Naruto. You both battle in my drome in 1 hour, he said to them both. Any complaints? He asked them in an annoyed voice. If I'm putting my deck on the line, so should he. Clay said, wondering what kinda scans he had. Fine, your condition is accepted. Hotek said as he left. Few minutes later. Naruto was getting many cheers from everyone as he sat at his table. Dude, you're a rock star. Peyton said to him in excitement. Yeah, man, listen, if you need to borrow some scans feel free. Tom said, wanting to see Clay get booted. Are you kidding? We need to arm him to the teeth. Kaz said to him. Guys, I've already got my strategy planned out. I planned this when Clay used the flux bauble on me. Naruto said confidently. Yeah, but you never know when you could use backup. Enga said as she sent him a scan. Heptad? Naruto asked in surprise as this was an ultra-rare scan. I had his card before coming to Chaotic and I scanned him in person. Enga said as she still had one scan of him. Naruto nodded. I'll put it to good use, he said to her before seeing he had another scan of the Vile Driver. He looked at Kaz. There are only 2 scans of it so far and Omer is building another one. Kaz said to him, wanting to see Clay booted and knew Naruto would need to match him in firepower. Naruto was then alerted to 2 more scans. He saw Elemental Counterpoint and then Tanguth Toborn. He looked at Tom and Sarah. Peyton looked confused for a second before he had an idea. Here's a scan of a Mypedian music caster, Tyan, he said, having an extra scan of him. And here, he said somewhat bitterly. A Mypedian cactus? Naruto asked, wondering what the big deal about it was. It gives a creature an extra 15 wisdom and allows you to move the equipped creature anywhere on the board, and if the creature is a Mypedian, you get an extra magician. Peyton said as it was a wicked piece of battle gear, and his only one, but to see Clay gone it was worth giving it to Naruto. I'll help you scan another one in the Mypedian desert. Naruto said to him as he got to work. 1 hour later. Naruto took a breath as he faced Clay, seeing him act all smug. They began setting up their battle teams. I should put Odu Bathax in the front line with his plasma pounder, he thought, putting Queen Alexia in the back, as with her he could use hive ability with her magicians and Alexia herself for a total of 3. Next to him I'll add Heptad. He thought, remembering Heptad could use all musics from all tribes to that came in handy and gave him a mower CYCL he got recently. He placed Ursus on the front lines as well with the Vile Driver. Miss you bud, he thought before looking at the last 2 spots. He placed Tyan with the Mypedian cactus, that was a no-brainer, and that left Tanguth with his signature sword. With the others. Think he can win? Kaz asked the others, remembering his match with Clay and how it almost ended up in a tie. Smart money is on yes. Peyton said as he and Naruto had battled before and he knew skill when he saw it. Clay is a cheater all the way, but I have to admit he is a fierce battler. Sarah said, hoping Naruto could win. I just hope our cards turn Clay to code. Tom said, truthfully wanting to see Clay get his. They all saw them lock their decks. Yeah, our boy is using our cards. Peyton said in excitement. Yeah, but who is that? Tom asked, looking at the creature on Naruto's front line. Sarah, while curious about Alexia, was curious about the creature she hadn't seen before. Yeah, but look at Clay's team. Enga said, as while happy Naruto was using their cards, she was looking at Clay's. They saw Bareth Beyond, Dracnus, and Dardemus in his front lines. His midfield was Raren and Magmon, but the real surprise was the last creature in back, Van Blut. Our bro is gonna be in for it. Peyton said, as this team was powerful. Which one you think has the vile driver? Kez asked them curiously. Might be Dardemus. Enga said, seeing no point to limit certain creatures like Van Blut or Dracnus who could fly. The only other creature she'd bet on is Bareth Beyond. Hotek Drome. Since I was challenged, I'll be the attacker. Clay said to him, spinning the spinner. Naruto saw the location. It was Ice Pillar. Port Court. I've never heard of Ice Pillar. Tom said, as Enga agreed. It's technically Glacier Plains, but under it, it's rarely visited or ventured to. Kaz said to them. But the effect is still the same, you pay an extra magician for music if you're using Underworlder music. Sarah said to them. But why would Clay do that? He uses mostly Underworlders. Tom asked the others. Since Naruto uses a mixed deck, it probably plays to his advantage, since Naruto might use an Underworlder. Enga said, as it was a gamble to think Naruto would have had an Underworlder, but he had none, so that plan backfired on him. With Naruto. Bareth Beyond attacks Odyubathax. Clay said as they transformed. Ice Pillar. Bugs are not built for the cold. Odyubathax thought to himself, as battling Clay here should be easy as there weren't many places to hide. He stopped when he heard what sounded like a harp. Is that magician's lyre? He thought, looking for where the sound had come from. Port Court. Not a bad move. Kaz said, a Bareth Beyond only had one magician. It was one of the few downsides to him. Giving him a magician lyre to gain a magician was genius. Think he's trying to use music? Tom asked them. Gotta be, with the location he needs 2 magicians to use his music. Peyton said, as they watched closely. Chorus of the Kothika. Bareth Beyond yelled. Ice Pillar. DM in it, he can use any music now. Odyubathax thought to himself, as he needed to be smart, as Bareth Beyond now had access to use any music he wanted, which meant he needed to be careful. What tribe would Clay use? He's an underworld player. But Chorus of the Kothika meant he was going to use one from the other tribes, he thought, ruling out Danian. There was another music being played. Port Court. That's HMM of the elements. Tom said, as he himself had that music. Clay will now have any element he wants, he said, as the others saw what element Bareth Beyond gained. Ice Pillar. Riptide. Bareth Beyond said, firing at Odyubathax. Water. Odyubathax thought before he realized what music was played, a little on point. Ice Water. Should have picked the Riverlands if you were planning this, he said, as he sent a rock wave his way. I needed to make you think you had the advantage. It's called tactics, you newbie. Bareth Beyond said before firing a lavalanche. Odyubathax equipped his plasma pounder and began to fire at Bareth Beyond. Let me show you real firepower. Bareth Beyond said, as he equipped the vile driver and shot at Odyubathax. Port Court. Naruto is toast. Peyton said, seeing Naruto as he lost a lot of energy from the hits he took. He's not done yet, Peyton. Queen Alexia is on his team, her magicians count as mandibores. Sarah said, reminding him of that small detail. They watched as they saw it in play. Queen Alexia lost a magician. Ice Pillar. This isn't anything special. Odyubathax thought to himself, remembering how Kaz got the vile driver. He got his plasma pounder and started shooting at the cannons. Bareth Beyond chased Odyubathax and fired upon him, cursing the hive ability. He became annoyed when the cannons stopped functioning. Now you're just an idiot on giant legs. Odubathak said, charging him, firing his blaster, destroying Bareth beyond and his gear. Hotek Drome. How does he still have his Danian? He used hive ability. Clay thought as he thought he rid himself of one of Naruto's creatures for an even draw. Queen Alexia's mujiks count as mandiblores, he sacrificed one to use hive ability, the AI said, sounding tired of hearing Clay speak. Hey, I need to ask you something. Naruto said to him. If it's mercy, forget it. Clay said to him. No, I mean I've seen a lot of foreign chaotic players and none of them have accents when they transform into their creature. I mean Enga has an accent and it doesn't travel, but you and only you do, and it sounds so incredibly fake. You're so unoriginal, he said to him. Port Court. Everyone fell over laughing, having just realized this. Enga was annoyed as Naruto used her as an example, but she was laughing as it insulted Clay. The group watched as Peyton mimicked Clay and spoke with an accent. Hotek Drome. Clay was red in the face in anger from the comment. Will you shut it and pick your creature, he said in annoyance. Naruto chuckled as he spun the spinner. It landed on Jade Pillar. He then picked Ulysses to attack Dardemus. Clay transformed, but soon he was silenced as he saw Ursus. He looked terrifying. Port Court. Now Naruto, let's see if you can use Ursus. Krellin thought as he was currently Kit and was watching like every other chaotic player. With the others. I've heard of Jade Pillar, but I've never been. Kez said to the others as the underworld had a few pillars and this one was too much out of the way. It's a good location for attacking creatures, along for creatures of wisdom. Enga said, having battled there. This location is unique, it has a limiter on it, she said to them. What kind of limiter? Sarah asked curiously. Each attack piles up whenever you accumulate damage to 50 between players. The pillar damages the person who attacked last for 50 damage. Enga said as she lost the battle there, not knowing that tidbit. So, it's a numbers game. Tom said as an out-of-the-way location like that would be a valuable scan. Jade Pillar. Okay, the total is 35 to 40 damage. Ursus thought as he tried keeping score, but math was never his strong suit, but most attacks were between 5 to 10 damage. Well, time to go with plan B, he said to himself, walking out in the open, making himself vulnerable. Come on, you pathetic BSTRD, show me what you're made of, he said, calling out Clay. Seeing Dardemus approach. Sup ugly, he said, completely relaxed. Take your best shot. He said, seeing Dardemus take out his pyro blaster and fired, soon only becoming code. Hotek Drome. How did I become coded? Clay asked in shock. Jade Pillar is a special battle location with a limiter of 50 damage. Storm Maelstrom delivered 30, while you delivered 20, and once meeting the cap, you lost 50 energy, coding you instantly, the AI said to him with a bit of snark. A risky play, but it worked out. Naruto said, smiling as he moved Taion close to Drachnus. Clay saw it was better to attack Taion than risk fighting Odubathak when the queen had one magician left along with herself, meaning Naruto could use hive ability twice, and Ursus, he was just terrifying. He spun the location randomizer and smiled seeing the location. Drachnus attacks Taion, he said, picking. Port Court. CRP. Peyton said in anger. What? The group asked. That location. Peyton said, clenching his fists. It's called the Mypdom Lounge. It's a location purely meant for Mypedians, he said to them. Isn't that good? Enga asked as location meant for creatures usually assisted them. No, here's its card. Peyton said to them, showing them the description of the location. The card is better than when you go there. When you go there, when a Mypedian attacks, it can either increase their attack power or lose more energy for it. He said to them, bro, better be careful. If he screws up or misses one attack, he's done for, he said as he went to that location and asked the AI. It told him that the coin toss was done systematically by pure chance. Mypedian Lounge. Naruto felt how tense Taion was being here. He knew that it was risky using attacks. Gotta stick to my mujiks, he thought to himself, turning invisible. Port Court. So how fast did you lose? Sarah asked Peyton. I lost on my first attack. Peyton said as his creature had already battled prior and when he lost the energy he got coated. The others winced as it was as bad as what just happened to Clay at Jade Pillar. My Pedian Lounge. Hope my luck doesn't turn on me. Tyan thought activating a Music Eifler's improvisation, he said as the light shined on him, if my next attack connects I'll either win the match or lose energy. He thought seeing Clay with a spectral viewer, well there goes invisibility, he thought before activating another magician, Trills of Diminution, he said as he shut down Drachnus' abilities, Ember Swarm, he said as he struck Drachnus when he was down, but felt weakened. Not this time, Runt. Drachnus said firing at Tyan as well. The two continued to fire at each other till soon they were both code. Port Court. Everyone began to boo at the draw. Hey, our boy is still in this. Clay has 3 and our man has 5. Peyton said quick to Naruto's defense, but was angry he lost Tyan. Well, at least he took down Drachnus, he thought, truly hating the location they went to. Hotek Drome. If I stuck with Ursus or Odu Bathax I would have won without losing Tyan. Naruto thought bitterly as he spun his location randomizer and saw it was Underworld City. Heptad attacks Magmon, he said as they transformed. Port Court. This is ironic, I used Magmon in a battle in Underworld City, now Naruto is using the creature I gave him to fight it again. Enga said as the irony was screaming. Yeah, but Naruto beat you with brains. Kaz said to her, this is power versus power, he said to them. Underworld City. Why is he waiting? Heptad thought to himself seeing Magmon out in the open. He knew that he only had one magician so he assumed Magmon had a battle gear on him, which one was the true question, he had no choice but to approach him. About time. Magmon said as he held out his hand, I think you'll remember this, he said with a grin as the flux bauble appeared. Heptab became enraged when he saw they were at the lava pond. Magmon is strongest here, he thought, feeling this was odd. The Mypedian Lounge was one thing, how'd we end up here, he asked demandingly. I stored all my scans of locations in order, I know what was next because of it. Clay said as the Mypedian Lounge was his last location, meaning the next was the underworld locations he added, and the first underworld location he always added was the lava pond. Sadly Naruto believed he wasn't full of CRP on this one, as it made sense to a degree to know what scans were placed before the other, and if he had a system it was even more in his hands. Port Court. That sounds like counting cards. Tom said, referring to gambling. Maybe, but it's not illegal since they're his own cards. The randomizer puts the cards in the order you place them when you spin. It's like a wheel, all the choices are there, but it depends on how you spin. Sarah said as what Clay did was clever and legal. Lava pond. Great, I'm in the one location Magmon is strongest. Heptad thought as he had fled from Magmon using his motorcycle riding along the ceiling. Magmon already had increased strength to his fire, the lava pond gave him another 5 for his fire attacks and Magmon gained 5 more, that was a total of 15 extra to all fire attacks. The only upside was he also had fire attacks. Incinerate is an option, but if I lose Heptad I am screwed, he thought to himself as he was sure Clay only had locations where he had a disadvantage or his creatures had the advantage. Naruto calmed down and relaxed, letting Heptad's influence wash over him, his knowledge coming to him at a steady pace, but there was something hidden deep within him, something powerful. You're not getting away that easily. Magmon said, riding a wave of lava. SHT, if I'm gonna do this, I need to do it now. Heptad thought as he hit the brakes and the motorcycle began to fall, hitting Magmon's wave, making him crash. I ain't going down in a crash landing again. Magmon said in annoyance as he picked himself out of the lava. That wasn't the point. Heptad said before he took a deep breath. His body began to shine brightly and it struck Magmon. Hotek Drome. What just happened? Clay asked the question on everyone's mind who was watching. You were hit by an attack and lost, the AI said simply and quickly. I lost my motorcycle, but I at least get to keep Heptad. Naruto thought to himself. Clay moved Raren to Tyan's empty space. I forgot Raren can move anywhere freely. Naruto thought to himself as now Clay was in the dead center of his creatures. He watched. Clay spun the spinner and saw the location sands of the unseen. Raren attacks Queen Alexia. Clay said, thinking this would be an easy win. Port Court. Interesting. Krellin thought, as it was a unique location, Ratan could use air attacks so he could fly and be invisible. That was certainly an impressive location, especially for Raren, all things considered. Sands of the unseen. I have only one music counter. Alexia thought, as she could no longer save it for Odyubathax. Even if she won, she would then be a sacrifice. Alexia was blasted from the side. She felt the wind fly right by her. Before it happened again, I can tell where he's going, but I can feel the wind as he flies by, she thought to herself as she had an idea, but it was a dangerous one. Carnivore's keening, she said as the music hit Raren. Port Court. What's he doing? Tartareker said, gaining the attention of everyone. That music gives energy, he said as everyone looked at the screen wondering if Naruto was insane. Sands of the unseen. He only had Van Blut, come on. Alexia thought to herself as another effect of this music was it affected a creature's intelligence. Raren was 25 with Van Blut, it should be 15 now. She heard crackling and saw Raren flying completely visible. Delirium, she said, hitting him dead center, making him an even bigger idiot. Rock Wave, she said, raising her upper body and legs and stomped them down. Pebble Storm, she said, striking him again. Rustoxic, she said, seeing Clay regain his senses and kept him in place. Mineral Mayhem, she said as Raren became code. Port Court. Sarah cheered at the top of her lungs seeing the queen destroy Clay. Naruto, everyone was cheering for him. Naruto's only lost one creature and one battle gear. Clay is going down. Peyton said in excitement. Hotek Drome. Of course. Naruto said, having screwed himself on this one. Port Court. Oh, that has to SCK. Krellin thought to himself seeing Naruto's location. Hotek Drome. Gojo's Tower. Clay said, laughing maniacally. Heptad attacks Von Blut. Naruto said, knowing this was going to be a challenge. Gojo's Tower. I go on one prank rampage. Heptad thought as he thought he could use this location to his advantage, but it bit him in the ass instead. Heptad wandered the location, with Clay having Van Blut's memories it worked against him. He was interrupted when he heard metal grinding on the floor and saw Van Blut with a familiar scythe. How does it feel, to be completely afraid? Van Blut asked him curiously. I don't know how's it feel to need a pointy stick and a castle to feel important and tall. Heptad asked as he had the scythe scan, but he wondered how Clay got it. He wasn't sure who he was referring to as well, Clay or Van Blut. Van Blut laughed, but that did nothing to Heptad. Ferocity, he said, blasting Heptad. Heptad was terrified by what he saw. He was knocked over and put on all fours before Van Blut positioned the scythe to reap his head. Port Court. Everyone was a little disturbed as while melee combat was rare, it was never that savage or creepy, and what was worse was the way Van Blut laughed. No one could tell if that was Van Blut or Clay. Krellin felt a bit relieved that Clay was going to lose, as this chaotic player didn't seem to have any regard for life, as that was savage even more than the animalistic creatures. He had a feeling even Hotek was feeling the same as well. Hotek Drome. Fear Valley. Clay said confidently. Port Court. Everyone watched as Odyubathax got coated by Van Blut. This time Van Blut buried the scythe in Odyubathax before aggressively opening his shell and coating him. Naruto only has Ursus, Alexia, and Tanguth. Tom said as Alexia was as good as done for. Ursus had taken some hits but was still good, and Tanguth had everything as he hadn't battled. Everyone was on the edge of their seats. Clay had turned truly savage with Van Blut. Hotek Drome. Mount Pillar. Naruto said as he had an option to use either Alexia or Tanguth. Alexia knew the hive, but she was in no condition for a battle. If he lost Tanguth, all he had left was Ursus. Tanguth Toborn attacks Van Blut, he said as they transformed. Mount Pillar. I gotta take out that battle gear. Tanguth thought as Van Blut was incredibly deadly with it. It was almost scary how much more of a threat he was with the scythe, and wondered why Van Blut never used it more often. Tanguy was glad they were in this place as there weren't very high ceilings, meaning Van Blut had limited space to evade and fly. He wondered where Van Blut could be, as there were three options. There was the Dannian Hall, Overworld Embassy, or, he's channeling Van Blut, he said in realization. Few minutes later. Skartala's chambers, I can search for that idiot freely. Clay thought, having scanned Van Blut after Spider had returned from failing his mission. Spider had told Van Blut how he entered, as that information was still valuable. Word of advice, don't think you can trick someone with a location he's already broken into. Tanguy said, firing from the open elevator, before charging Van Blut with his blade. Seeing him raise his scythe to act as a shield, say goodbye to your battle gear, he said, bringing his sword down with all his might, breaking the scythe. Port Court. You took out his battle gear, but can you defeat him? Krellin thought to himself as Van Blut was still raring to go. Mount Pillar. Ash Torrent. Van Blut said as the room filled with smoke. Ember Swarm, he yelled, striking Tanguy. Damn it, I'm blind and my sense of smell is blocked. Tanguy thought, having to rely on his hearing. Port Court. Everyone was on edge as they watched the energy meters lessen, and massive explosions erupted before loud crashes were heard, and soon Tanguy's energy hit zero. What happened? Tom asked, as in shock, seeing his creature get coated. The must have broke the floor they were on. Sarah said, as that was one of the issues with Mount Pillar. Some areas were meant for battle, others weren't. It wasn't uncommon for a cave-in or a part of a level to collapse. Hotek Drome. Looks like the difference in skill is starting to be shown. Clay said confidently. He saw Naruto roll his eyes at him and growled. He spun the randomizer and saw the location. Lake Kenaipa. Naruto said, smiling, guess your music strategy went up in smoke, he said to Clay, as music targeting was messed with greatly. To his knowledge, that was the reason Najuran lived there, to study what tampered with music so he could increase his skill and proficiency whenever he used it. Clay looked concerned as Naruto was right. Even if I use my music it could hit me instead, he thought to himself. Van Blut attacks Ursus, he said, picking the attacking creatures. After this, your Alexia is finished, he said now as Van Blut. We'll see. Ursus said with a feral grin. Lake Kenaipa. Van Blut was flying over the lake, not having spotted Ursus yet. With Ursus. Thank God I know how Ursus hunts. Ursus thought to himself as he hunted with Ursus when he stayed with him, wanting to earn his keep. Ursus liked fish, and Prexarchasm had some deep rivers, so he often dived to get them. He had terrific breath control. He was deep within the water, so he couldn't be seen, but that didn't mean he couldn't look up and see Van Blut in the air. Port Court. Interesting. Krellin thought to himself as that was something he never knew about Ursus. Naruto truly came into him, even though this was his first time using him. He noticed everyone was tense watching this battle and chuckled when Peyton made shark movie references toward Ursus, who'd check Van Blut out. Lake Kenaipa. He must be in the castle. Van Blut thought as he landed, not giving Naruto the advantage by seeing him coming. Ursus growled as Van Blut was too far for him to fully code. He saw him walking towards the castle. Najuran has that place rigged, he thought, as Najuran gave him a skeleton key, sort to speak. It allowed him access to his home and wouldn't activate any security measures. Anyone else, however, well, they were in for some surprises. Najuran's castle. So this is how the great Najuran lives. He has style, I'll give him that. Van Blut said, walking inside. Ursus was climbing the top of the cliff side and following Van Blut inside. Time to even the odds, he thought to himself with a chuckle. Few minutes later. Come on Ursus, let's settle this. Van Blut said, knocking something over. Whoops, he said sarcastically. You know, I always thought you were pathetic. Ursus' voice said, echoing off the castle walls. Says the one who's hiding. Van Blut said in annoyance, on his guard. I mean, you run your mouth, think you're the best, but you lie, cheat, and dishonor what it means to be yourself. Ursus said, his voice still echoing. I am the best, you simpleton. Van Blut said angrily. Please, you're a joke, and not even a funny one, you're one of those sad mime clowns from the opera. Ursus said as Van Blut growled, oh, and just so you know, I'm talking about both of you, he said with a chuckle. Clay, Van Blut, both of you are the same level of pathetic, it's no wonder you use him. Well, I'm not one to talk since I have as well, but at least I'm proud and own up to what I do, but all you do is cower, he said as he watched Van Blood incinerate the hallway. Enough, come out and fight. Van Blood said demandingly. You know, while not funny, you're fun to laugh at. Ursus said with a chuckle before bellowing in laughter which boomed as a result of the echo. Stop laughing. Van Blood said angrily and slightly afraid. Mega roar. Ursus said, his voice echoing everywhere. Port court. What's Naruto doing? Kaz asked as it almost seemed like he was manipulating Clay. I've seen it in a few battles with mental attacks. I think Naruto is trying to force Clay to give into Van Blood's personality. Sarah said to them, as when a player freaked out, the body of the creature often acted as a buffer, keeping their mental state in check to a degree, but as a result they mentally gave into a creature and thought they were that creature. The real question is, would that be a good thing? Kit said, taking an empty seat. Hi, the name's Kit, I'm an associate of Naruto's, he said to them as they welcomed him. They all introduced themselves. So who's worse, Clay or Van Blood? Hayden asked the others. Van Blood. Clay was already giving in to him from the start. Kit said as it was obvious, the savagery, while brutal and probably Clay's choice, was Van Blood's own thirst for BLD. It was rare for a creature's will to have so much influence on the player, but apparently Clay got Van Blood in a bloodthirsty state. They were all interested in seeing Van Blood become coated. Nadrin's castle. You know that vase you broke earlier was enchanted? Ursus asked with a grin. Van Blood would have retorted if not for the sound of heavy clanking on the floor, soon seeing statues of gold approach. Ursus watched as Van Blood took some physical blows, no doubt losing energy, but was shocked he actually blew them all away. No more games, let's finish this. Van Blood said angrily. My pleasure. Ursus said, dropping from up above, landing on Van Blood, his feet pinning his arms and his hands grabbing Van Blood's wings. When you give in to anger, Clay, you lose sight of everything, even the things closest to you, he said, ripping off his wings, hearing him scream in agony before he became code. Port court. Everyone was silent when Clay lost, no one daring to speak, afraid this moment wasn't real. That's our friend. Peyton said as everyone came out of their shock and cheered. Hotek Drome. That was an impressive battle, Storm Maelstrom. Hotek said begrudgingly as Naruto was tactful, intelligent, and used whatever means he could, legal means, to win the battle. He started out strong, and came down from it, but he won on his terms. He could respect that. Now, he said, holding up a silver card with the chaotic symbol on it. Port court. Many people got dings to their scanners and cheered, seeing it was the cards Clay had stolen from them. Hotek Drome. Why did he get scans? Naruto asked him curiously. Those are scans that he physically got himself, so as the winner you get them. Hotek said simply. No, this is unjustified, I demand a do-over. Clay said demandingly before Hotek glared at him. Even with the mask everyone could tell. You disgraced the name of chaotic player. Honestly, I thought the mental torture Naruto had inflicted upon you was enough, but clearly you still need teaching. Hotek said, snapping his fingers, showing Clay's most pathetic moments in all the dromes. Watch your failures, before you leave my drome, you pathetic piece of filth, he said before looking toward Naruto. I expect a decent match before I reduce you to code, in our future battle, he said to him before sinking into the floor. Naruto walked outside and was greeted by a screaming crowd. Dude, that was awesome. Tom said as he loved how ironic it was Clay got defeated at the location he sent him to. Forget awesome, that was the coolest match ever. Peyton said, giving Naruto a hug. I can't believe you got all of Clay's actual scans. Kaz said, impressed, as those scans would be worth a lot. Sarah and Enga approached him and gave him a kiss on both sides of his cheeks, making Naruto blush. Naruto got many thanks and appreciations as he walked, and turned around when he heard boos, seeing people booing Clay as he walked to the port court. Storm Maelstrom, right? Christella asked Naruto, approaching him. Impressive match, very brutal, she said, as she could appreciate whenever someone toyed with their enemies like a predator did to prey. He had it coming. Naruto said to her as she chuckled. Yeah, I could see that. Christella said as while she didn't fault Clay's tactics. If he attempted any of that on her, she would have done the same. Who is that? Kaz asked the others. Christella, she's almost as bad as Clay. Enga said in annoyance, she's basically a chaotic mercenary, she gathers information and sells it to whomever, creature or human, no regard whatsoever, she said to him. Is the information good? Hayden asked curiously. Usually. Enga said having used her once before, but the deal was outrageous. You said she's like Clay? Sarah asked, not liking that one bit. She has scammed a few new players and has battled some who have interrupted her deals. Enga said as Christella was brutal when crossed. So why is she talking to Naruto? Tom asked as Naruto wasn't someone who got played easily. Reputation, he's one of the most popular players after his match with Clay. Enga said, taking a guess. Maybe she just thinks he's hot. Kaz said as many girls were sending Naruto looks and wolf whistles, that even he was able to notice he was attracting the opposite section. Sarah and Enga sent him a glare for that comment. Everyone watched as they saw Clay go to the transporter. Is no one gonna say goodbye? Clay asked bitterly. I'll do it. Naruto said as everyone stared at him, Clay, we will not miss you, you sucked as a chaotic player, sucked as a person, and are a failure as a human being. We are going to throw a party the moment you leave and it will go on for days, hell we'll make it a holiday, because you are selfish and disgusting, now go the F home and make our lives better by not being here and go F yourself, he said to him walking away. DMN, that was brutal. Christella thought not knowing he could be that mean to someone he disliked, made him seem very attractive. Everyone watched as Clay poured it out for the last time and then the party started. Port court. Where the hell did my shirt go? Naruto asked looking around as pretty much as far as the eye could see players were knocked out and resting on the floor. SHT, how many people hated that guy? He asked himself curiously before he chuckled at himself. Man, I gotta show Chire, he thought seeing a replay of his battle on the big screens. Underworld. Ajitos, I want this image framed. Chire said in delight seeing Ursus rip Van Blut's wings off. Naruto had come here to tell him about his battle and went the extra mile to even show him. He got Chire a large TV and had Ulmer get a generator to power it. It took some doing, but Naruto had been planning this for a while. Essentially the TV was like a scanner linked to the chaotic network. It could work anywhere essentially. He did the same for Queen Alexia, which she thanked him with praise as she was bored out of her mind. He got to scan Assel. To his surprise, she had the same statuses and abilities as her mother. Her wisdom was lesser, but her speed was higher, but other than that they were the same. He added some seals around the TV as given who they were given to. He was sure damage could occur at any time, especially Chire. He put so many seals on that TV it was basically indestructible. You should have used Underworlders. Takinom said bitterly as she saw his logic in who he picked and why, but she was mad not to see any representation of her tribe. She knew how apparently she could sacrifice an Underworlder to regain energy. That ability was similar to Hive ability, but had more risk. Naruto could have lost more creatures with it. She's right, now scan me. Chire said, shocking everyone as he never let chaotic players get close unless he deemed it so. He normally blasted any who came close. I want to see you eliminate the enemy, he said angrily as he wanted to see himself eliminate as many enemies as possible. Naruto didn't look a gift horse in the mouth and did as told, scanning the ruler. Now I have 3 ultra-rare scans, he thought, thinking of Van Blut and Queen Alexia. Few days later. Naruto looked at Dractyl's scales curiously as ever since he went helping Peyton with getting another scan of the Mypedian cactus, he wondered what else was considered battle gear. He scanned the scales and saw they were indeed battle gear, and only hearing gets energy from them. He thought finding that odd but saw it as cool as he could use it as a poison. Thanks, they were really starting to stink up the place. Dractyl said as ever since making this deal his nest was cleaner. No problem. Kaz said as Naruto really saved his skin as he did not like rushing this job off and getting scale juices on his clothes. Dractyl was still surprised someone could eat his scales, but as long as those 2 cleaned up he did not care. A code scanner? Kaz said, finding it in his scales. Oh yeah, some kid got ambushed by Mypedians and taken. Draktyl said to him boredly. Naruto knew Draktyl was not the most courageous of creatures, but that was low and something Van Blut would do, "'Cause I'll go search for the kid, mind looking into it from chaotic after hearing?" he asked curiously. Sure. Kaz said as he went to tell the others after seeing the screen name on the back of the scanner. Mypedian Oasis. Naruto was looking around seeing many Mypedians eye him. This was a neutral territory. Peyton coming here often enough as is, you know, for a Mypedian, you kinda make it obvious you're following me, he said, stopping in an alley. There was a silence before the Mypedian revealed himself. How did you notice me? He asked him curiously. You don't leave footprints, but I can hear the crunching of the sand. Naruto said as this guy was impressive with his footwork, not leaving tracks. You're the human with powers Peyton mentioned, Naruto, the Mypedian said to him. Peyton, I swear to God. Naruto thought as Peyton and Kaz ran their mouths. We had gotten reports of you from Mount Pillar and from numerous underworlders we capture for information, the Mypedian said to him. Peyton didn't tell me of you. I asked him of you as we were already aware, he said to him. Naruto was less angry now. So what do you want? He asked curiously as Mypedians had a mixed reputation, like all the tribes, but they were more sneaky and devious in certain regards. Curiosity. Peyton said you were the only one of your kind, the only human that can attack as we do, but much odder, the Mypedian said to him. Yeah, Seato, I'm the only human who can do the awesome things I can do. Naruto said as he had been trying to place the Mypedian's name till he realized he was Seato, one of Peyton's go-to Mypedians for matches. He walked vertically up a nearby wall to prove his point. Seato launched himself onto the wall. You'd make a decent Mypedian, he said to him, half joking, half serious. Naruto chuckled. Yeah, but only one of us can disappear, he said, confusing Seato before Naruto burst into smoke. With the real Naruto. Great Mypedian territory might be dangerous for me now. Naruto thought as Prince Mudinu was a pragmatic leader, while often seen as harsh, he was loyal and protective of his people, and Naruto could respect him for that. Naruto guessed Seato would inform the prince. I may need assistance, he thought, needing to go to Kiru City. Next day, Kiru City. Naruto had to wait as Intress had been on a mission prior to him arriving, and when she did arrive she had to go to the Music Academy. You need information on Prince Mudinu? Intress asked as she was at the Music Academy. Yeah, he might have kidnapped someone and I was wondering if you knew anything. Naruto asked her. Why are you here? He asked curiously. I'm teaching a class. I'm one of the few overworlders who has made their own music. Intress said, showing him her music. Naruto scanned it and saw it was pretty impressive. Intress, healing ballad, he thought, as the effect was based on the number of musicians the opposing force had and multiplied by 5 for healing energy. That was a useful music, especially since everyone liked to have a good number of musicians in their teams. Surprised you have a healing music, you seem more warrior than healer, he said, getting a laugh. I'm not, I made this when a certain healer passed away, I made it to honor them. Intress said sadly. Naruto shut his trap then and there. So the Mypedians have information on me, where would they hold prisoners? He asked her, changing the subject immediately. Usually prisoners of value are brought to fortresses or possibly even the castles. Mudinu has one near the oasis, as does his brother Ifler. Intress said as Ifler was a much better leader than Mudinu. They had met on many occasions as Maxer had often met with him for more issues between territory, but Mudinu was another story. He was a truly annoying lizard. Naruto took that information and then left, but not before wishing her luck with her class. Port Court. You lost Maxer. What the hell happened? I was gone an hour. Naruto asked as they explained where Reggie went to last. Neither having a scan. Tom, make 2 trips to Castle Bodron and send me the location, he said, looking for Bruiser 33. Tom and Kaz followed close as Naruto walked right up to Bruiser. Hey, Bruiser 33, I challenge you for that Maxer scan you got. Naruto said to him. Sorry dude, I just got it, and unless you got something of equal or greater value, not a chance. Bruiser said before Naruto smirked. How about I make the match double in value? I'll put up Chire and Van Blut for your Maxer card. Naruto asked him, seeing his surprise. Those are some powerful cards. Deal. Bruiser said as they went to the beta drome. Beta drome. Naruto, this guy and Frafto are perfect at Castle Bodron. Kaz said over the scanner. He beat me the same way you did when we first battled. Tom said, feeling like a chump losing the same way twice. Naruto was impressed as Bruiser used Song of Reversal instead of what he used. He decided to use Intress as she might have some ideas about the castle. He considered Atacat given he was fast, but Intress was stronger and only a little slower than Frafto. I'll give her a Torweg to meet him in the air, he thought as he was banking on Bruiser using Frafto. Naruto's hopes were soon crushed as he saw Bruiser was using the very card he was trying to win. Port Court. Tom slammed his hand on the table seeing his card being used against his friend. Castle Bodrum. Intress was lucky to arrive inside. I might have the advantage here, she thought to herself as Intress was remarkably quiet and had a few memories of Frafto here. He knew all the angles, but she knew how to redirect her angles with Vine Snare. It changed the game entirely, especially given she had a Torweg. Port Court. Tom watched as Naruto looked around and was waiting for Maxer. Castle Bodrum. There you are. Maxer said, firing at Intress. Come on Greenie, meet me at the top. Intress said as he chased her and she fired back. Port Court. What's he doing? He's missing. Kaz said as Naruto shot around Maxer as he chased her to the top. Castle Bodrum. Water attacks won't do good with this lickalizer. Maxer said confidently. We'll see. Intress thought, making it to the top. Nowhere left to run, kitty. Maxer said, aiming his blaster at her. Who said I was running? Intress said, taking a swan dive before equipping her battle gear and firing at the wall on the ground floor. The building started to tilt. Song of Reversal. Maxer said, using his music. Oh no, you don't. Song of Reversal. Intress said as their musics played. She shot up in the air. You use another and you still go down, she said as their musics cancelled out. She was sure he had another, but with her in the air he didn't have a chance. She watched as he crashed and became code. Beta drome. You used my music against me. Bruiser said to him in respect as that was clever. Yeah, I looked at some of your battle footage and you always carry one or two of those, so I prepared to put you in a place where if you used it I could counter or you'd be screwed. Naruto said to him. Few minutes later. Hey, can I ask something? Naruto asked Bruiser curiously as Bruiser sent him Maxer. Shoot. Bruiser asked him. You seem like a nice guy, why put up a front of being someone you're not? Naruto asked him curiously. It's kinda nice, I mean you get it Mr. I defeated Chaotic, it's nice when people think you're special. Bruiser said in admittance as there was something about this guy he just respected. I get that, but I wouldn't trade my friendship for short-lived fame. Naruto said as he got a taste of that before when he brought back Tsunade and fought Gaara. It was nice, but his friendships were worth more. Hope to see you around Bruiser, he said to him. Bruiser was silent as he had to respect Naruto as he was a good player and a good friend. He saw Tom give him a Castle Bodron scan and pulled up his own. Castle Bodron. So you won't take back the card? Naruto asked as Tom said no at Chaotic. No, you won it fair and square. Tom said as he appreciated what Naruto did for him. It spoke a lot about him. It was different when he gave Naruto Tenguth. He wanted Clay gone and was willing to help him out the best he could. This felt like charity to him. Well, if you change your mind. Naruto said to him holding the scan. Before anything else could be said he was suddenly on the ground with a bird-like foot on his back. Few minutes later. How's it going, Birdman? Naruto asked from inside his cell as Frafto glared at him. When Frafto landed on top of him it hurt like hell, so he was naturally pissed. Tom jumped in and while admirable, it was a sad excuse as Frafto was more annoyed if anything when he got off him he punched him in the eye and then his beak. The two getting into a fist fight. They needed to find Reggie so he took a dive, but he did hurt Frafto a good deal. What happened to not giving up our scanners? Tom asked Kaz in annoyance as unlike them he gave up. It was kinda sad given he was an underworld player. Yeah, man, seriously never give up your means of escape. Naruto said as it was just plain stupid. Naruto, he beat you. Kaz said, shooting him a look. I took a dive to find Reggie. Naruto said loudly so Frafto could hear him, hearing him squawk in shock for getting played. Seriously, cause I could have busted us out of here. I mean, that idiot hasn't realized I stole the DMN key off him yet, he said, hearing Frafto squawk angrily. That's right, bird, USCK, he said in defiance, not wanting to think his captor had the upper hand or thinking he had won over on them. You could do all that but not get our scanners? Kaz asked curiously. Sorry, but I was too angry and pissed, plus I have a major concussion. Naruto said in total honesty as the hit his head took hitting the ground, and Frafto's punches were not something he could ignore. Okay, see, that's an excuse. Tom said as it surprised him how durable Naruto was. They were interrupted when Frafto came inside the cell and glared at Naruto. Anywhere, anytime, chicken wings, I'll make you my lunch. Naruto said tauntingly. Kaz held back a laugh as that was a little funny. Silence, humans, you are in the presence of the leader of the overworld. Frafto said, moving aside as Maxer himself came in. Naruto and Kaz saw Tom spaz out seeing his favorite creature, and when he got closer Frafto shoved him to the ground, telling him to show respect. It all happened in an instant. Naruto rushed Frafto, sending him through the door, and then spun, grabbing Maxer and throwing him through it as well. Bruiser? Naruto asked in shock, seeing his fellow player. Dude, that was totally awesome. Bruiser said before seeing them get up. Oh crud, he said, guessing it was short-lived. Bruiser? Frafto said in surprise, being brought out of it as Naruto once again bopped him on his beak. 5 minutes later. Listen, chicken fingers and you to green bean, try that bullshit again and I'll show you what I'm really made of. Naruto said as his chest bled as Frafto clawed him. You're Naruto Uzumaki, aren't you? Maxer asked as Intress had recently reported to him about this boy along with his deeds. He was aiding his people, however small, and had saved Nadran's son whom not even he knew existed. This boy had his appreciation. Naruto guessed Intress, and your Maxer, I'd say it was a pleasure, but your pet over there leaves more to be desired, he said, glaring at Frafto. Maxer gave Frafto a look to calm down. Why did you come here? He asked all of them. Naruto raised Reggie's scanner. Dractyl took this from a chaotic player who dropped it in the Mypedian oasis, leaving him as he was kidnapped by the Mypedians, he said to him. The child with the map. Frafto said to Maxer. Maxer sighed in exhaustion. He should have reported that, he said, as Dractyl was in charge of the location where he lived and was also a messenger if enemies entered it. His high nest and flying skill gave him the advantage to report things he spotted from far distances, and whenever he went on his travels, his nest also stored battle gear should his troops ever need it, as not many would willingly climb his nest. Yeah, well, I guess we're going to save him. Naruto said as he got up. And why should we help you, human? Frafto asked in annoyance, much preferring to shoot him. Because you soon-to-be chicken dinner, he was doing something for you and you had the ball to call him a traitor. Let me be clear, he has your map bullshit, so either come with us to get it or stay here and be cowards the rest of your life. Naruto said, getting up. Your friend is like, so cool. Bruiser said, unable to believe he talked down to two of the strongest creatures in the overworld. Maxer was interested. This human had spirit, just as Intress described of him. We will join forces, come, he said as he went to collect battle gear from Mypedian territory. Interesting. Jada thought to himself. 1 hour later. This works in my favor. Mudinu said as Seato had informed him of meeting the human. He trusted none of his troops more than Seato, and based on what Jada said, given how badly the overworld had just treated him, this could mean he could gain a powerful and useful resource. With Naruto. Dude, your wound is gone. Brusier said as he was positive Naruto had a massive gash. They were walking toward the oasis. I'll you about it later. Why are you here? Naruto asked curiously. Oh, well, you guys were headed to Castle Bodron and I thought I'd tag along for a cool scan. Bruiser said, seeing the flat look Naruto gave him before he smiled. Thanks for coming to help us, Bruiser, it means a lot, bet you're glad you did. Naruto said, having seen him scan Maxer. Hey, at least I got the scan back. Bruiser said to him. Maxer had noticed Naruto had healed as well. It was incredibly fast. He looked to Tom, who seemed the most eager to talk to him upon his entering the jail cell. "Tom," he asked, wondering if he heard Naruto right when he addressed him, "what can you tell me about him?" He asked him curiously and politely, as he knew from how Frafto acted that was a bad idea to treat them poorly. What do you want to know?" Tom asked awkwardly, as Naruto attacking his hero was not how he saw this day going. "Is he truly from a world different than where you come from?" Maxer asked, getting a nod. "Please, that human is pathetic," Frafto said, still sporting injuries. "This human isn't deaf, you idiots, and I thought you had high courage. You want to ask your questions, ask the guy you are asking about," Naruto said, flipping Frafto off as he looked ready to attack him again. "Now, I'm starting to believe he trained with Tanguth," Maxer thought, as Naruto's no-nonsense attitude and quick response to stupidity reminded him of Tanguth and his troops. "Fine," he said, walking closer. "Where do your loyalties lie?" he asked him, wondering about that, hearing whispers from underworlders about him. "Easy, my friends, I'll stop any unnecessary plots and the like by some, but like Van Blut, I'll help my friends when they need it, but I am not getting involved in this bullshit you call a war. It's dumb," Naruto said as he kept walking. "Rasness would like him," Maxer thought with a small silent chuckle, as bearing the cursing Naruto seemed to want to avoid conflict but did engage when absolutely necessary. 30 minutes later. "How the hell did I get stuck with you?" Naruto asked as he was with Frafto, Tom, and Bruiser. "No, the better question is how did I get stuck with you?" Frafto said, hating that he was now babysitter. "Because you attack us blindly, you didn't know what we were there for, tried to restrain us before asking us anything, and you have been nothing but a PP since the moment I met you," Naruto said, listing off the reasons. Frafto huffed, not having a response. Naruto stopped, having heard a crumble in the stone hit the ground, he said as he threw an explosive tag which blew up upon contact. "They saw my pedians fall to the ground." Naruto grabbed one of their staffs and began fighting back, but he heard a boom in the distance and saw Kaz on the ground. "Kaz," he said in surprise. Few minutes later. Naruto checked Kaz over. "His ribs are cracked and I think he has bruised organs," he said, as Kaz was lucky. He showed no signs of bruising or bleeding on the outside, but inside was another story. Any strenuous physical movements and he could easily break his ribs. Before anyone could speak, Mudinu approached them. "You," he said to Naruto. "Come with me," he said to him. "No," Naruto said as the guards aimed their weapons at him. Maxer was impressed. Naruto didn't even flinch. "You either heal him and I'll go, or you kill me now, because I won't abandon him like this," Naruto said, not moving. Mudinu looked toward his troops and one came forward. "Song of Recovery," they said as it hit Kaz. Naruto checked him over and saw his injuries were gone. "Fine," he said to Mudinu, but not before getting close to Kaz. "If you have a chance to escape, take it. I still have my scanner," he said to Kaz, and made sure Maxer could hear him as well. Dining room. "I was honestly expecting torture," Naruto said, not expecting dinner. "Normally that'd be the case, for my enemies," Mudinu said to him. "But you are not my enemy, are you?" he asked him curiously. "I mean, I'd punch you in the face, but you healed my friend, so I consider us even on that," Naruto said simply. Mudinu nodded, able to respect that. "You're loyal, you rarely see that in a creature or a human," he said, grabbing a large drumstick. "So what do you want to bribe me?" Naruto asked him curiously. "Would that work?" Mudinu asked him as he doubted it. "Not a chance, I can't be bought like that," Naruto said to him. "Ah, but you do work for favor?" Mudinu asked, seeing the child worked for what he got. His eyes shined with mischief and cleverness. "Sure," Naruto said as he'd work for certain things. "Come, my boy," Mudinu said as he and Naruto moved to a picture in the center of the dining room. It was a Mypedian, but he was in a class of his own, an apex predator by looks alone. "This is my father Thepsar. He went on a spirit journey to find and discover the secrets of HAREM. He would have liked you, a mystery from another world, different than the humans you so closely resemble," he said to him. Naruto felt that this conversation was taking an odd turn. he expected him to ask about the Kothika. My tribe is often seen in scrutiny for our ability to hide ourselves, but let me ask, do we take advantage or are we just using it to the best of our ability? Mudinu asked him, wondering his response. Everyone does. If you have a power you're gonna use it, what really matters is the intent. Naruto said to him. Mudinu smiled at that response. It was less short-sighted than what he expected from a human. He nearly jumped hearing Naruto scan him. You had that this whole time? He asked, surprised he hadn't run. Yep. Naruto said to him. You're either very brave or very crazy. Mudinu said, as from what Jota said he did to Frafdo, he could be either. I get that a lot. Naruto said to him as they were interrupted by explosions. Thanks guys, he thought, seeing Draktal carrying his nest with Sarah, Peyton, and Enga. You're coming with me. Mudinu said to him. With Tom. Naruto. Tom asked in shock, seeing his friend, but he looked different, red hair and violet eyes and no whisker marks. I changed my appearance, I'm a clone. Naruto said to him. Now get on, I have something I need to do, he said to him, watching as the Mypedians retreated from the castle. Maxer was shocked when Naruto began to multiply and then do something truly unexpected. With Mudinu. Mudinu was shocked as he saw overworlders leaving his castle, more than the ones he captured. He saw Intress, Tangath Toborn, Atakat, Jespodin, Victar, Nagerin, and so many more. He was then attacked from the air, seeing Maxer. Hope you like music, Mudinu, you're not the only one who can cast it. Maxer said as clone Naruto told him to say it, as he couldn't believe Naruto could make himself look like anyone he wanted. Few minutes later. That was totally wicked. Bruiser said as today was awesome. Please hold your applause, clone Naruto said to him. Dude, that was totally awesome. Peyton said as it was a Mypedian class move to pull a stunt like that. I must admit that was an impressive move, distracting the troops with false imitation troops. Maxer said as the tactic was impressive. He reached into his back pocket to pull out the map, only to realize something. The map, it's gone, he said in shock. With Naruto. You do realize this is fake, right? Naruto asked him curiously as he gave Mudinu the map fragment after having struck a deal with him. What? Mudinu said, glaring at him, thinking he played him. Both are genius, look. Naruto said, flipping the pages. Yes, this is mapping paper, it's been used for centuries. Mudinu said to him. Yeah, you have a map to match it to. Naruto asked as a guard went to get a map on Mudinu's orders and soon came back. Feel them, he said to Mudinu. Mudinu felt the maps. The one his guard brought seems rougher, while the Kothika map seemed newer. This is a forgery, he said, trembling in anger. Yep. Naruto said, having taken a look at Maxer's map piece when they were walking, having swiped it from him. He noticed all the things about the map. The paper wasn't old, as he had seen scrolls in Nagerin's castle, having helped place them in his library. He compared the texture to one of those, and this was definitely newer. Naruto left as Mudinu went on a rampage. With the others. Maxer was panicking as he lost the map and it was now in Mypedian hands. Naruto had just poured it in and saw the leader panicking like an idiot. The map was fake, he said as he tossed Maxer his half. You gave it to Mudinu. Maxer said demandingly. Yeah, I knew it was fake the moment I stole it from you. Naruto said with a grin. If you knew it was a fake, why go on with the mission? Frafdo said in annoyance. Because you wouldn't have saved Reggie. Say what you will, but at the end of it all you're just mad because a child was smarter than the two of you. Naruto said to them. Maxer took a deep breath and calmed down, asking Naruto how he knew it was a fake, and when he explained he felt like an idiot as he examined countless maps from Blazer in the past. He should have seen the flaws. He's right, this is a fake, he said, feeling like an idiot. Tom, I'd scan him. Naruto said as Tom did just that. Kaz scanned Frafdo as Maxer healed him earlier with Song of Resurgence. Well, this meeting has been mostly unpleasant, Frafdo. I ever see you again, I will make you into my dinner. Maxer, you weren't bad, but you need to get more control of your troops. Your birds are idiots. Naruto said as he took off, having scanned Mudinu's palace from the inside before he left. Port Court. So how does he compare to your original scan? Naruto asked him curiously. Well, he has one less magician and his energy is a little lower. Tom said as he counted today as a good one. Happens, man, we can't always get them in primo condition. Naruto said as it sucked, but it was the truth. Kiru City. Good to be home. Maxer said as he walked past the gate, seeing everyone around him looked nervous. He made it to the castle and his guards looked terrified he was back. This doesn't bode well, he thought to himself as when he made it to the throne room he heard shouting. If Maxer finds out she's missing, he'll go on a rampage, one that'll make Chires seem like they were thrown by a toddler. Rasna's voice spoke loudly in the chamber. Intress is gone. Maxer said, rushing in, but saw Intress was there. Who is missing? He asked them, both raising their hands in a calming gesture. Maxer, it's your mother, someone stole her casket. Rasna said, seeing Maxer's shocked face. Few days later. Hey Bodil. Naruto said, coming into the armory. There you are. Bodil said, looking terrified. Listen, Intress told me to tell you to go to the barracks next time you came here. Now go, he said in urgency. Naruto was confused and ran to the barracks, seeing many of the troops active, and saw Intress. Intress, he said, calling her and getting her attention. Naruto, thank the Kothaka, I need your help. Intress said, explaining to him someone stole Maxer's mother's body. Naruto winced, reminded of Orochimaru. I'll help, but where is her burial site? He asked her as they went to the location. Few minutes later. Can I ask why everyone is so on edge? Naruto asked her, as a body being stolen was a tragedy, but this seemed like there was more to it. This woman was a Muge. Believe it or not, the war was in worse shape in the earlier days, many injured, many sick, even Najurin was failing to keep up with his fellow Muges. Intress said as those were bad times, but Maxer's mother healed as many people as she could, and often, taking it too far, she tried pushing her body to make magicians faster in order to heal everyone, she said sadly. Naruto could only guess, but it sounded like when someone tried to force a jutsu, it would cause irreparable damage to their network and could likely cause death. Do you know why my music is named after me? Intress asked him. I assumed it was because you made it and not for some egotistical reason. Naruto said. Honestly. That is half true. When I was younger I was learning from Maxer's mother. She taught me everything she knew. I was her apprentice in a way. She had been studying how to make a music that could heal people on the front lines easily, but due to all the stress she was under, she became ill, but I continued her work. I wanted to save her. I was able to finish the music, but in the end I was too late. No music could help her. Maxer and I then spent time with her before she passed. Intress said sadly, I gave her our completed music and Najurin made more. I was called a saint, if you can believe it, she said with a snort. So the music was named in her honor. Naruto thought as that was kind of impressive. To be honest, wait, back up, you gave her your completed music as in she was buried with it? He asked her, getting a nod. The music isn't special, it's meant for combat or to be around warriors who can cast magicians. Intress said as the music was generally for the battlefield as it worked off the excess energy ot other magicians. Naruto was silent as that theory was gone, as why would someone steal a music they could get anywhere? Gojo's tower. Scythia was a bit distraught. Van Blut had asked her to do many things, but this crossed a line. He had sent her and Krek to steal a body, and grave digging was the worst kind of thing a person could do, even by underworld standards. Overworld graveyard. Najurin. Naruto said, seeing the Muge, who nodded in return. Greetings, my young friend, I wish the circumstances were better for our meeting. Najurin said as he brought Naruto to the crypt. Naruto saw that there was another casket in the room. He could only guess it was Maxer's father. He looked at the empty space where he assumed the casket was. Guards heard the explosion and upon entering hadn't seen anyone come out when they broke in. Najurin said to him, giving him the details. So what, no music? Naruto asked as he was thinking flux bauble, as Mypedian invisibility only went so far, and he was sure the guards or at least someone thought of spectral viewers. No. Najurin said to him. I don't get it, why steal a corpse? Naruto said as bearing ghost and ghost-like creatures, there were no undead zombies here. I have a feeling, it is to create a music. Nijirin said to him, there have been certain periods in time when music have been made that perverse the very art. He said to them, dark songs of tragedy have been made and have caused irreparable damage, he said to them. Yeah, but you can get a corpse anywhere, why the hell is Maxer's mother so special, not to speak ill of the dead? Naruto said quickly adding the last part, but his question was still valid. Nijirin and Intress shared a look. Okay, let me take a swing at this, she has a special bloodline, her body holds a secret, and this is my last one. Her family ancestor created a dark music. Naruto asked him feeling it was possibly one of those. You, speak as if you have seen this before. Nijirin asked not sure if he should be impressed or horrified given how young he was. He had seen many memories in Naruto, but not his entire life. Listen, I know someone who has brought back zombies, okay? Naruto said to him, there is no point in going after a corpse you can get anywhere unless said corpse has something special to it, he said, as that was why Orochimaru had stolen the bodies of the first and second Hokage. There are certain things a Muge can do, but shouldn't. Nijirin said to him, getting Naruto's attention, Maxer's mother never did anything wrong, what she did was a truly selfless act, she turned herself into a musician, he said, seeing Naruto's surprise. I thought you got it through body and spirit, how the hell is that possible? Naruto asked him curiously. It was akin to saying one could turn their own life energy into replenishing their chakra. This is true, but music casters can also in a last-ditch effort force their souls into becoming a musician in order to cast a music, and as a result, the music is not destroyed, it is empowered even after being cast. Nijirin said as it was one of the most selfless acts he had ever seen, but foolish all the same. Before she died, she used the music you gave her. Naruto said in surprise, looking at Intress, her cat ears down. Maxer and I were unaware of what she planned. My music had been sent to the front lines, but there were many injured in Kira City, and with each use the music got weaker. Remember, the more musicians it is around the more powerful. Intress said to him. So the music that was used healed everyone despite the limitations. Naruto said as Koppand would both be interested and disgusted by this, as while searching to empower music he wouldn't sacrifice people for each one. They both nodded. But that still leaves one thing to be answered, what the hell can they do with a turbocharged healing music or a corpse that has had its soul removed? Naruto asked Nijirin. It may be used as an ingredient. Nijirin said to them as the silence grew. Naruto looked around the crypt looking for anything that stood out. His eye drew to something yellow on the floor. A scale, he said in surprise. Wait, I've seen this scale before, he said to himself. Where? Intress asked, wanting more to say. Who? Krek. Naruto said as they all had the same thought. Van Blut, they thought to themselves. I can be in the underworld quickly, but to get the body out I may need some help. Naruto said to them. Whatever you need, it is yours. Nijirin said to him. 20 minutes later. Naruto stood at Gojo's tower needing to have a plan. If I'm seen I'm dead and I could blow Takinom's cover, he thought, as Chire had made sure to keep Rothar and Omer's lips shut about him so word wouldn't reach Van Blut. He considered telling Chire, as even the leader of the underworld wouldn't cross some lines. He'd bait her with Maxer for the body, of course, but he wouldn't violate the corpse in any way, even if it was toward his most hated enemy. The music, on the other hand, he would give to Koppand for study. Naruto didn't know if it was good luck or bad luck, but he saw Takinom flying towards Gojo's tower. He hailed her. Few minutes later. That fool took a music like that. Takinom said in shock, unable to believe what Van Blut had done. It went above and beyond his normal idiocy. Listen, I need to get the body back. Intress and Nijirin told me Maxer is looking into it. How pissed do you think he'll be to know Van Blut stole his mother's body? Naruto asked her as she saw the ramifications. Nijirin and Intress agreed to his plan and chose not to inform Maxer. That idiot barely comprehends music, let alone how to make it. Takinom said as if Van Blut messed up with a music of this caliber mayhem would ensue for sure. I won't inform Chire of this. development, she said, knowing there would be much panic, and if word got out the underworld would have more enemies from the other tribes, as Muges and Mujiks were well respected for a reason. Few minutes later, Takinom brought Naruto inside and went ahead of him. He stuck to the ceilings while Takinom acted as his lookout. Krek. Takinom said to him, not looking up in order to not reveal Naruto's position. "You're looking well," she said, seeing he was happy, and for a coward that wasn't a good thing. "Van Blut rewarded me and Scythia for a job well done." Krek said to her, feeling taller than he actually was. "You know Takinom, from one winged underworlder to another, not a chance," he was saying before Takinom cut him off and walked past him. Naruto waited till he moved out of the way and got back to Takinom still above her. They both soon caught a smell, which was saying much since Gojo's tower all but smelled everywhere. He can't be that dumb, can he? They both thought to themselves, seeing Van Blut boiling a large cauldron, with the casket nearby. As if on cue, Van Blut laughed like a madman. He then spotted Takinom. "Ah, Takinom, I forgot you were coming. Anything to report?" he asked her. "No, I received the crystal you sent to me. I should have it hidden for Chire's next meeting," Takinom said to him, reporting her status. "Good, I'll know what Chire will plan in response," Van Blut said, chuckling to himself. "It is a good thing I planted extra tags," Naruto thought, as even when he pulled pranks he had backups in place, so when he put tags on Gojo's tower the first time, he only blew up the first set. The explosions were instant. "We're under attack, go see who that is," Van Blut said, ordering Takinom, who did as told. "Well, he didn't run," Naruto thought, dropping a chili pepper bomb. "My eyes," Van Blut said, tearing up. Naruto saw the Mujik and grabbed it. He transformed his clones into random people. He also made 2 clones to mess with Van Blut. He made them turn into Skartalas and clay. Naruto and his clones ran with the casket. Few minutes later, Najiran better have the Mujik ready. Naruto thought, as he was a little tired. He had to run through the lava pond to avoid being seen by more people. He was going to the passage, and Najiran had a song of reversal waiting. It could only trade places with something the person could see, and Najiran had a scope on him, and given that he could fly, it would take him seconds to come back up after switching with the casket. Intress was also there to help secure the casket as well. "And where do you think you're going?" Scythia asked, surprising Naruto. "You are supposed to be dead," she said, as Van Blut confirmed it himself. "Come on, Naruto, think." Naruto thought, needing a way out of this, before she shot at one of his disguised clones. "OSHT, he thought to himself as she blasted it through the head, making go into a puff of smoke. Scythia charged Naruto, firing fire attacks. "This is fine." Naruto thought, having fought here enough times to know fire was stronger. "Rock wave," Scythia said, sending the attack at him. "And now she has earth attacks." Naruto thought, having done research on them after his escape, she was only good at fire attacks. "Pebble storm," Scythia said, firing from her chest. "I really hate this attack." Naruto thought to himself, as while blunt they were fired at intense speeds enough to bruise a person, and it was widespread. "I expected more from you. You were skilled enough to break into Gojo's tower, get past me, blow it up, and fake your death. I wanted a challenge," Scythia said to him angrily. Naruto dodged more earth and fire attacks, putting up a decent battle. Beneath the 2 combatants, someone was watching them, someone in the lava. 30 minutes later. "DMN, this woman is persistent," Naruto thought, as he was at a major disadvantage. The heat was getting intense, the kind of intense that shattered his clones, and he was getting dehydrated. If he kept going like this, he was screwed. "Listen, I can't keep going like this. Is there a way I can bribe you to let me go?" he asked her, as she worked for Van Blut of all people. She had to have a price. Krek was a coward, but she was smarter. She was a survivor. Scythia gave him a look. "Do you know why I am called the Gojo's spy?" she asked him curiously. "I am trained to gather information and commit espionage," she said simply. "Do you remember your last visit to Iron Pillar?" she asked him. "Was I spotted?" Naruto thought to himself, wondering if he blew his own cover. "You rescued Zerv, Perithian reported to me and gathered intel. Underworlders, not the best at keeping secrets unless it's their own." Scythia said smiling as she taunted him. Naruto held his tongue back. You haven't told Van Blut, have you? He asked as that bullshit he gave Van Blut still fresh in his mind, as Van Blut would have done everything and anything to improve his music, and with him there that would have increased the odds. No. Scythia said to him, her smile lessening. Okay, you're clearly smarter than that half-wit, why work for him? Naruto asked, not getting it. The emotions he got from her were many: anger, bitterness, jealousy, and frustration, but they weren't directed toward him. Do you know what it is like here in the underworld? Whenever you work for someone, people assume you are just like that person. Scythia said to him. Naruto could very much understand that. People often thought because he held the Nine Tails he was the Nine Tails. Being a soldier for the underworld is a great honor, so they say. Scythia said, having a very different opinion of the matter. I was top of my class and unit. I wanted to improve my tribe, work with Chire and actually do something, but this orphan that was groomed by his father's advisor was taken in and trained alongside Chire when he was prince and deemed her for the position, she said, hating the clear show of favoritism. Naruto could somewhat understand that as well. Kakashi favored Sasuke's training and often left him with others. Besides the chakra exercises, his sensei taught him. Nothing. What if I could get you promoted? He asked, as he would owe Chire a favor, but he would get another spy out of it. Scythia looked at him with a raised brow, wondering how he'd pull that off. I can talk to Chire, get you promoted to a higher position. Hell, if he ever kills Van Blut, he might give you Gojo's tower dash, Naruto was saying till he saw her disgust. Right, bad example, he said to her, understanding it was a hell hole. The point I'm trying to make is if you help Chire when Van Blut tries to do whatever the hell he is trying to do, he'll reward you handsomely, he said to her. Fine, but if you try to make a fool out of me, I'll sell you out to Van Blut and hunt you down myself. Scythia said as he nodded, walking over to her and shaking her hand. She watched him leave. She gave him more benefit to his word than anyone, as he was carrying a casket through the lava pond, very risky, and a very bold action. 1 hour later. Naruto panted as Intress hosed him down, his skin and body very dry and dehydrated from walking through the lava pond's more heated areas. You have done a noble thing, Naruto Uzumaki. Nijirin said to him. It's fine, but I think something was done to the music. Naruto said, tossing it right at him. Nijirin examined it. The music was intact, but somewhat weakened. Then it seems Van Blut achieved what he came to do, he said, as Maxer's mother's remains were perfectly intact. Of that he checked himself. Naruto looked upset, but he was tired. Even as Intress blasted water at him, he passed out. 3 hours later, Kiru City. You had to bring him back here? Fravdo asked Intress in annoyance, seeing Naruto in a guest chamber at the castle, and Intress acting as his nurse. He rescued Maxer's mother's casket and the music she sacrificed herself for to heal the overworld. Intress said to him with a fierce glare, daring him to object to Naruto being here. Naruto shot up, spooking the occupants of the room. Is that you, chicken nuggets? You got something to say? Say it to my face, he said, mumbling as he was in a bit of a haze, before falling back down. So this is the boy I have heard much about. He's very spirited. Razna said, walking in with Maxer. Is he all right? Maxer asked as Nijirin said all he needed was water and rest. Naruto had fought in the lava pond and returned his mother's casket. He was having Nijirin put in safeguards. He owed Naruto a great debt for what he did. Besides being barely conscious, he's fine. Intress said as it was impressive how strong he was. They watched as he stirred again and reached for a pitcher filled with water and downed it. He got up and then fell down. He picked himself up and then leaned on the wall. They all chuckled as he kept stumbling before he stopped close to Fravdo. You got something to say, human? Fravdo asked before Naruto bopped him in the beak. I'm ready for round god DMN2, you dumb duck. Naruto said, wobbling. I see he is as strong as ever. Tengyth said, having heard of what Naruto did. Well, he's about to be dead. Fravdo said till Intress extended her claws and had them at his throat. He's a guest here, we do not threaten our guests. Intress said as Fravdo immediately backed down. Hey Maxer. Naruto said face down on the floor, I kicked your butt as Intress and blew up Castle Bodrin in chaotic, he said, pulling up his scanner, as another feature he had was he could actually connect to the screens on his scanner and watch matches anywhere, even in harem, and he played the footage. Intress watched in awe as she saw herself running to the top, destroying the stairs as she did so, and saw herself using a torweg to fly and destroy the fortress with Maxer on it. Well, now we know for sure, I can defeat you, she said as she laughed at Maxer. By destroying my nest. Frafdo said flatly. It would be a noble sacrifice. Intress said, having lost many spars against Maxer, and now she knew victory was possible. Naruto fell over, becoming unconscious. Naruto. A soft voice said, echoing in his mind. Naruto opened his eyes, finding himself in a field of flowers, the ocean right beside him. On his chest lay a appealing girl. She had dark red hair. Nice of you to join me, Naruto, the girl said as she pecked his cheek. Naruto felt wave after wave of calmness. The sea is so perfect today, the girl said to him. We should go for a swim, after we enjoy some ramen, seafood for me and pork for you, she said, suddenly holding 2 bowls of ramen. Was she holding those? Naruto thought before he started to eat. It tasted heavenly, almost like home. Get stronger, Naruto, get so strong no one can stop you, not even FUNN, the girl said with a smile. Naruto felt his mind begin to stir. So spirited, I love it, the girl said before the area around them changed and they were suddenly in the ocean. Naruto watched the human girl change and grow scales. Let's do this again soon, the girl said, blinking, her transformation incomplete as she disappeared into the shadows of the deep. Kiru City. Naruto shot up, and as he did, someone was sent to the floor. He looked and saw it was a mermaid. Was she the one from my dream? He thought to himself, and then wondered why she was on top of him. You're awake, the mermaid said to him. When Siren saw you, I thought he was mistaken when he told us that you were real. You're an elemental, she said in excitement. Who are you? Naruto asked, as she didn't seem like an ordinary creature. She seemed different and even smelled it. It's like, she's the ocean and a river, he thought to himself. I am Unda. Unda said to him, doing a small curtsy, and jumped in excitement. I swear if this is some kinda dream. Naruto thought, wondering if he had seen too many movies with mermaids. I want to take you somewhere special. Unda said before Naruto could say anything. They had vanished. Kaizef, City of the Elements. I swear that was painful. Naruto thought, thinking he'd vomit all over the place. Hello, youngling. Kopan said with a fire beast with wings next to him. This is Siren, an acquaintance of mine, he said, rarely using that term. You know Najiran, he said as he pointed to the elder. Okay, can someone explain what the hell this is? Naruto asked them. You know how you make musics glow, correct? Najiran asked him, getting a nod. It's because of my chakra. Naruto said to him. Nope. Unda said excitedly as Siren snorted, a literal small cloud of smoke being made as he did. They, the elementals, have sensed you for a long time. Somehow, you are connected by all. Kopan said, holding a music from each tribe and threw it at him. Not only did they glow, but they also seemed to float around Naruto. Inside your body, you carry the power of fire, air, water, and earth. So rarely have we met someone like you, someone who sings to musics. Siren said to him, we wish to train you, especially after the pitiful display you had at the lava pond, he said to him. Hey, I was having a tough day. Naruto said to him. No excuses. Siren yelled at him, when you fight, you must give it your all. Holding back is a sign of weakness and destroys any respect on the battlefield, he said to him. Naruto, do you wonder why the other tribes specialize in certain elements? Najiran asked him curiously. I often thought it was a culture thing, or the elements were more taught or born there. Naruto said to him, not really sure. Close enough. Unda said to him, Overworlders water, Underworlders fire, Mypedians air, and Danians earth, she said to him. Wait, back up, you want to train me? I thought I only possessed 2 elements. Naruto asked as he was sure the Ninetales told him that, and then kicked him out of his seal. No, you posses all, sadly, I will not be your first teacher. Sirin said to him before Naruto was swept up in a gust of air. Think he'll survive? Kopond asked Najiran as he was unsure. He has the spirit. Najiran said as he was underplaying that, Naruto had spirit to spare, he was determined, stubborn, and fought with every last bit of himself. The storms. Hello Naruto Uzumaki, I am Sylve. Sylve said introducing herself, you may wish to plant your feet, she said to him. Naruto was unsure of what she meant as the wind pushed him upward and soon she was next to him. Can you feel it? It is so vibrant and free, and this wind is so alive. Sylve said to him, before the wind dropped him, and mischievous, she said with a smile. Naruto felt this was going to get old fast. Next day. Really wish I knew what I was supposed to be doing. Naruto thought focusing his chakra, Najiran and Kopond said chakra and energy were similar and different, but not by much, he needed to open his mind to learn that there are different ways to get what he wants. Naruto's seal. The Nine-Tails was honestly relieved about the elemental's offer, but something struck him as odd, he was positive Naruto only had wind and fire, how was it they could sense he could use all elements, as while true given a third Hokage who learned all elements while his nature solely being fire, he wondered if there was something buried deep within his host, that not even he knew of. With Naruto. Air is simple and powerful, it's free and it's alive, we cannot control it, but we can guide it, we can add to it, and we can join it, was what Sylve said to him, it made little to no sense. Sylve often made comments on how he was too restricting, him, the guy who used to scream at the top of his lungs about being Hokage, wearing orange, and pulled pranks on everyone, was too restricting. Naruto often got annoyed as the winds kept bugging him as he concentrated, often brushing past him, blowing past him, or even blowing in his face. What was worse was every time his mind started to drift, he heard. That girl, Unda swore it wasn't her and wondered to himself if he had hit a milestone in PBRTY that he now had a dream girl. You have so much wind in you. Sylve said to him somehow sounding envious, stop being so afraid, she said having less enthusiasm and sounded more serious. The hell do I have to be afraid of dash? Naruto thought till he found himself inside the village, but it was a memory, it was from when he was a child. The storms. What did you do? Najiran said demandingly as Naruto was in a form he hadn't accessed in years, he had a cloak around his body and had a tail swashing around, all the wind spirits were pushed out of this part of the location, something he thought was impossible. Naruto looked at them and merely roared, firing a blast of pressurized air. This is incredible. Sylve said in excitement as Najiran looked at her as she was crazy, and then remembered she was a Mypedian, they lived on the very edge. Najiran grabbed hold of her and shot a mental beam at Naruto, they were now both in his mind, but what they found was ghastly, around Naruto was, spirits for lack of a better word, they were his own negativity given form, but they were based on truth, Naruto was an empath, but he never thought he felt this kind of pain. Both fell to the floor as the spirits rushed them crushing them with the weight of emotion. Najiran felt weak, Naruto had carried this burden and could still smile, he was weak compared to the boy's will. Sylve was spirited and even her spirits were being crushed, she had no idea this was what was holding Naruto back, this was awful. They were brought out of their own thoughts as a small sphere of light appeared went to Naruto and soon gold chains shot out of it striking the spirits. With Naruto. The cloak around Naruto dissipated, he fell forward and felt something change, he felt lighter and while the pain was still there, it felt like he was, relieved of some of it, it felt nice. Najiran and Sylve were blasted out of Naruto's mind and saw the wind spirits gather around Naruto, it was different than before, it was now greeting him, and seemed eager to respond to him, they saw wind gather around Naruto starting out as a small gust, but it built in speed and in power. Whoa! Naruto said to himself. And to think, he's only taken the first step. Sylve said as Najiran was truly terrified of whom this boy considered his enemies. Few days later. Naruto was kinda enjoying his newfound wind power, he couldn't do anything like Ash Torrent, or any other air attacks, his wind was in a natural and primal state, he mainly found ways to use it for himself physically, using it to propel himself, change his direction of landing in mid-air, it would make travel easier and faster for him. Sylve said he was getting the hang of it, but it would be up to him to see where and how far he took his new strength. Wind flows in many directions, like the leaves that travel upon them, each takes a different path. Follow your path, little leaf, she said to him, as that was something the third Hokage would say. Naruto then got a scan, as each elemental agreed he'd get a scan upon completing his training with them. Port Court. Naruto stretched as he made it back to Chaotic. He looked at the screen, seeing Tom losing a battle. Few minutes later. Hey. Naruto said on the trolley, waiting for Tom. Hey. Tom said to him, did you get into a fight? He asked as Naruto's clothes were in tatters. Technically no, but how about you doing okay? Naruto asked him. I thought having Maxer back would make things go back to normal. Tom said to him, but I got a weaker scan of what I used to have, he said bitterly. Naruto would have offered him his Maxer card, but he felt that was a bad idea. Tom, maybe try battling without Maxer, maybe you need to get out of this headspace, he said, offering his 2 cents. Tom considered it as the trolley stopped. I'll catch you later, he said to him, going home. Naruto was a little tired, he'd wait a while before going back to this conversation. Ulmer's castle. Naruto was helping Ulmer, and to be completely honest, while he was genuine in the lack of care to his health, Ulmer was still a better boss than Bodil. Even though their egos were the same size, he was sent to collect scrap from broken battle gear, see if there was any usable parts left in it. Naruto got to scan battle gear in return for his assistance. Ulmer even promised him some powerful battle gear scans, as he told him he got rid of Clay, the one who destroyed his lab and got him in trouble with Takinom. Naruto tried to explain he didn't kill Clay, but not denying the urge was strong. Ulmer just believed he was covering for himself and smiled at him creepily, honestly, and disturbingly. They were interrupted by thundering footsteps and saw Chire appear. Few minutes later. So Van Blood is using chaotic players? Naruto asked, as that sounded interesting. It made sense given Clay had a scan of the sickle when no one other than him had. Yeah, and Hearing suggested his own. Chire said, as he had heard Hearing talk about Kaz before. He had proven skills, having gotten Hearing hard to find items spread far and wide and hard to get to. He saw the use in having him. Kaz. Naruto said to himself, so, I'm assuming these spies are always actively getting information, he asked, as with a chaotic player one could get information on a location, the abilities of a creature, the power of music one didn't know, and so on. Believe it or not, no. Chire said to him, thinking the same at first, but he had heard differently. That woman Scythia reported nothing, he said, as he was surprised by the favor Naruto asked of him. He promised Scythia a just reward for her loyalty to him, but she would need to remain at her station. Sad Van Blood got to her. He thought, as Scythia was a promising recruit in the underworld army. She had excellent skills, and even though he hated to say it, her time with Van Blood was not a waste of time. Her skills in espionage were incredible. He promised her a spot as the leader of his fire force. They were tasked with maintaining the heat levels in the underworld, spontaneous combustions and flames and the like. It was a high position and a flexible one as well, so she could be used for other missions. He had been a member since he was a child, his father putting him in it, and it helped him develop his mastery of fire, so it worked out. He was only a member and not the leader, as it was more work, and some people learned to handle it better than he only was used for extreme fires. So what'll me mission be? Naruto asked, as Takinom had bugged the throne room if what Scythia told him was true. Your debut. Chire said, as the time for hiding was over. Naruto was known to all the tribes. According to his sources, he wanted to stake his claim on him by showing his loyalty to him by taking down Van Blood. People would abandon Van Blood quickly, learning he lost to a human. A few had already, when it was mentioned, by Scythia no less. He was robbed by a human and a Danian. He convinced Naruto that he was just taking down Van Blood, so that was a plus, and he hated him already, so another plus. Naruto nodded, but something was bothering him. He met with Scythia later on during his training with Sylve to check on something. Van Blood was still making the music. It made him curious, as Najurin said the music buried with Maxer's mother was weaker. He was wondering what the hell Van Blood really needed to finish that music. Gojo's tower. Naruto had been watching Scythia, and so far she hadn't betrayed him or Chire. He was seeing the plan was going according to script. he messaged Krellin to inform him of a possible player killer as the kid Kaz had fought was selling him out, hard. 1 hour later. You. Van Blut said in anger seeing Naruto arrive with Chire. Me. Naruto said cockily. Why is he here, Lord Chire? Van Blut said angrily. He's my servant. Chire said to him as Naruto hated that title. Few minutes later. This is CRP. Naruto said leaning against the table, the food is spoiled, he said as he would have guessed this was a reason to poison if not for Van Blut eating the same food. Why is he here? Van Blut asked wanting to kill him. Easy, he's worth something. Chire said to him flatly, and he had escaped you, he said with a small smirk as along with this meeting, Takinom and Scythia were broadcasting it to many of his troops and followers and many of Van Blut's followers he had in his jail cells. He got lucky. Van Blut said to him. There's luck and then there is skill. Naruto said back. Naruto listened as Van Blut got to the point of the meeting. He ranted on and on about the underworld being split in two. Question. Naruto asked them. What could your feeble mind need to know, human? Van Blut asked him while spitting out the words like venom. The entirety of Underworld City is loyal to Chire. He has contributed to it for years ever since he had taken control from his father. You have been Chire's second in command for years, yet you have had so few results and conspire with the other tribes, that the underworld deems its enemies, and what have you got to show for it? As second in command nothing has changed with you in charge. Why do people want you as their leader, when Chire actively protects his people? Naruto asked as it was simple. Underworlders were devious, true, but they were not idiots and did band together for common things. They wanted a leader, not a dictator. That was obvious even if no one said it or admitted it. Chire smiled as that was actually a good point. What did Van Blut offer the underworld? His information gathering and ability of flight made him somewhat more valuable, but Takinom was even more so. I mean, what have you actually have done, besides live like a pig, and be a waste of time and space? Naruto asked him smartly. Chire laughed as this was hilarious. Van Blut had enough and blasted him. This is enough, Chire. Not only do you fraternize with these annoyances, you let them speak in underworld business, he said, putting on a show. If it were me, this human would be a bloody mess in a cell, he said, thinking it'd be better to have Naruto than not. Then do it. Chire said to him, if you are the man you claim, back it up with actions, he said as this was going to be amazing. Let's go, Van Ugly. Naruto said to him. Few minutes later. Scythia was watching. Van Blut was not second in command for nothing, he was extremely powerful, he barely held his own against me, Odyubathax, and Intress, she thought to herself, having collected much information since she last saw him. His battle record and survival was impressive, but his victory rate left much to be desired. Chire had secretly contacted her and informed her of the deal Naruto made with him. She was impressed. Honor was a rare trait in an underworlder or any of its associates, but she wanted to see if Naruto could back up any of his talk. Takinom was there as well, still under the guise of traitor. She was supposed to blow her cover in the event Scythia or Krek intervened with the match between Chire and Van Blut, but she was worried about Naruto. With Naruto, Chire was going to enjoy this greatly. He promised Van Blut a quarter of the underworld should he win. The greedy BSTRD took it like a fish to bait. Naruto calmed his nerves. He had seen Van Blut's moves before, but running wasn't an option. This is a no-holds-barred minus the use of music. Anything on the person as they are now is within the rules. Chire said as he came up with this idea a while ago and was having it get into circulation. If anyone had an issue with someone else they would fight it, barring attempt of murder and other such crimes. This was how it would be handled. But he got to decide if a person lived or died in the arena. He made sure to have some power and made sure people knew it was because they couldn't go killing their own warriors. It was a bitter pill to some, but the reasoning was sound and no one could object. Seeing as how he could spare them as well. Van Blut rolled his eyes. Begin. Chire roared as the two readied themselves. Naruto immediately saw Van Blut turn invisible. He closed his eyes and smiled, throwing some kunai in one direction. Ah! Van Blut said, landing as he clutched his wing that Naruto hit. How did you, he said, hissing in anger. You're invisible, not soundproof, you idiot. Naruto said as he actually had clay to thank, as in their battle in Gojo's tower. He tried thinking of ways to combat his invisibility without a spectral viewer. Smart. Chaya thought, impressed. He thought it was foolish for Naruto to close his eyes during battle, but that was clearly wrong. In Mypedian territory it was useful to watch the sand as they revealed Mypedian footprints, but in Van Blut's case, Naruto listened to the sound of his wings flapping to determine his location. The two soon re-engaged in combat, Naruto dodging Van Blut's attack, seeing him light his own castle on fire. Chaya put out a few that seemed like they were gonna spread. With Scythia. Scythia was watching Krek laugh like a madman and an idiot as Van Blut blasted at Naruto. Come on, she thought, for some reason believing he could win. He'll win. Takinom said as of that she had no doubt. Krek laughed in agreement as he thought she meant Van Blut. With Naruto. Okay Van Blut, time to even out the playing field. Naruto said heatedly. Chaya and Van Blut were curious to what he meant and then felt it. Wind was pouring out of Naruto. He's not doing those hand sign things. Chaya thought, impressed as Naruto didn't call out an attack either. He was using pure wind. I've heard about this, he thought to himself as summoning flames to his hand was a parlor trick at best. What Naruto was doing was similar but more advanced. He was generating his element rawly. It would allow him to freely manipulate it. It wasn't the best or worst kind of fighting. They watched as Naruto propelled himself upward, punching Van Blut in the face. Your wings are a liability now, Naruto said to him. Chaya had to agree. With no escape, the wind was contained in the castle and Van Blut's wings would be of no help fighting or riding the wind. I'll show you a liability, Van Blut said, firing both air and fire attacks at Naruto. Everyone watching watched in awe as a human kept pace with Van Blut. It scarred them as to how this was possible. Naruto made a rasengan. I can't add wind to it yet, he thought in annoyance, as even while learning to use it with one hand, he found this next step impossible. But a workaround he made was he could focus the wind around the rasengan. It caused the rotation to have air pressure launched right at the target, sending them back with even more force, making the crash all the more painful. What are you? Van Blut demanded fearfully. Naruto Uzumaki, Naruto said, claiming his name as his title. Chaya watched in amazement as Van Blut was sent crashing through multiple walls in his castle. That wind was concentrated into the spot of which he made contact. He gathered it all out, so when it hit, it fired. He thought, as it was somewhat similar to his Incinerace, where he channeled all his flames into a single point and fired it outwardly. And he's barely winded, he thought as he was truly impressed. With Takinom. He did it. Takinom thought to herself in joy, while not willing to admit it out loud. Van Blut was stronger than her. To see Naruto do it made him seem more appealing. Scythia was having similar thoughts and Krek was panicking like an idiot. She watched as Takinom blasted him and the human Van Blut used. With Naruto. Van Blut picked himself up, feeling his bones ache. His eyes widened in shock as Naruto stood over him and grabbed him by his throat. Funny, you weren't supposed to survive, Naruto said with a dark chuckle, squeezing him by the throat. Let me be clear, you waste of life. If you ever step out of line and become my enemy, there will be no mercy spared when I finally end your worthless life. No one will care, and no one will stop me. You'll just be dead at my feet. Mess with me again and you're dead, he said, seeing the fear in his eyes. Naruto's seal. Finally progress, the Nine-Tails thought to himself. Naruto had made big leaps in the short time he had been training with the elementals. He was impressed his host had a fair understanding of wind now, and was surpassing the fourth Hokage. He expected as much as the brat had him sealed inside him. His body was already in top form, the one thing he didn't mess up in his time at Chaotic, but he needed to learn more and fight stronger opponents. With Chaya. Chaya approved of this greatly. Ajitos reported to him that more than a third of Van Blut's army defected. All his prisoners were selling him out, and he was getting credit for Naruto's acquisition. His people saw Naruto as one of his people, not lie, but not the truth either. That was so hot. Takinom and Scythia thought slightly ashamed of their less than pure thoughts about Naruto as he threatened Van Blut. You know, in a recent chaotic battle, I killed you, by ripping off your wings. I wonder how it'll work on the real you. Naruto said curiously as Van Blut looked even more afraid. Chire, Scythia, and Takinom were all silently praying for him to just do it and end his life, but he released Van Blut instead, disappointing them slightly. Now live, but remember you do so only, because I let you. Naruto said walking away. Van Blut was shown mercy, while thankful his pride was severely wounded. He got up, lava dash, he was saying till Naruto looked back with one eye, his blue eye's pupil slitted and while maintaining its color, the eye seemed to be glowing with red energy, and then, he saw it, behind Naruto was a creature he could only describe as a war beast, but much worse, it was like looking at evil itself, there was so much wrath and anger. It made Chire seem small in comparison, he fell to his knees in surrender. Later at Chire's castle. Chire was laughing with gusto, his second-in-command was done as in time all of Van Blut's support would fail. Chire's rule was more solidified now more than ever, he was having a small party of those closest to him and some other people. I can't believe you played Van Blut. Kaz said in excitement. Also thanks again for the invite, he said to him. No problem, come on, I'll introduce you to Chire, oh and also wise the hell up and don't spaz out. Naruto said to him informing of what Chire was going to pull on him. Kaz nodded understanding what it was, a setup inside a setup, it was an underworlder thing to do. Naruto would have gone with him to make sure he didn't make an butt of himself, but was kidnapped by Takinom. Naruto, I'd like you to meet my apprentice, Navena. Takinom said introducing the redhead with overworld blue skin wearing black armor. He took down Van Blut. Navena asked curiously and didn't seem to believe the claim. No, he decimated him. Chire said loudly before laughing again. You should be careful with this one Navena, he's a sly one. Hearing said as he liked Naruto a lot more than Kaz for various reasons, while he knew he asked for certain hard-to-get things, like food items, he was often caught off guard with how Naruto as he knew how to barter. Navena raised a brow at that. Takinom rolled her eyes as her lieutenant was a lot of things a believer was rarely the case, she was not here at the time when the broadcast through the crystals was shown as she was taking care of duties in her stead given she was close by in the event something went wrong for Naruto or Chire. They speak the truth Navena, that boy is a strange one, but he is without a doubt strong in body and in spirit. Kopan said surprising them, if you were wise, I suggest keeping him as an ally and not make him an enemy, even Radha respects him. He said as after their fight Naruto got him a drink, he wasn't egotistical and even explained how he won and where Radha could work on his moves. The two were now close, a hard feat especially given Radha was often rude to those he barely knew. Navena looked at Naruto and saw he looked nervous and embarrassed. It was odd, normally underworlders talked about their accomplishments with pride, some doing so much even underworlders got annoyed by their ego. It wasn't that big of a deal, seriously Van Blut is an idiot. Radha on the other hand is a warrior, you just need to understand that a person's set in a certain way and that makes them easy to predict. Naruto said as ninja were a mixed bag it was why they were so hard to read each other, but warriors, power-hungry idiots, and murderers were all easy to read, it made their actions predictable. Navena gave him props on that answer as it was a smart one, it was true, more so than he realized especially given each tribe had a certain mindscape. I heard you took down a bar filled with some idiot overworlders, one wouldn't have happened to look like me, she asked curiously. You mean Ivena? Naruto said simply as Intress had mentioned her student before, their tale was similar to Takinom and Intress' own tale. I swear this sibling rivalry SHT, he thought as it was getting old. Navena was still waiting on his answer. No, never met her. Naruto said to her. Well, at least you can say you knew the superior sister first. Navena said to him smugly. Did you know you and your sister have a special ability when together? Naruto said to her. Takinom seemed interested in that comment. The sisters were often enemies, together they have an ability, she thought in surprise. Naruto pulled out a scanner and showed them a picture of both sisters fighting monsters, not separate, but also not together either, they merely took down their enemies that stood in their way. With you Ivena gains 20 energy and a defender perk, he said as he looked into defender as what it did was stop an enemy's attack one time allowing you to once again attack them. It was pretty handy in his opinion, as normally creatures with this perk were weaker in power. And what do I get? Nevena asked, wondering what she got in return. Her sister was a warrior, it should have been expected that she'd get that. She did admire the imagery, as her picture made her look wicked and devious. You pay one less magician to activate your special ability. Naruto said, as that would be a huge help to him given he uses mixed tribes all the time. If he used all 4 not counting the Marillion tribe, he could dish out a total of 20 damage, but the sad thing was he could only use it when it was his turn, and another sad thing was both sisters' abilities only worked when they were next to each other at the start of the match, otherwise it didn't activate, so it meant having a magician up front where they'd be targeted or a warrior in back. Nevena often hated her special ability, as while widespread it was limited to 1 use, as it took 2 of her 3 magicians. If what Naruto said was true, then her sister being near her meant she could use it multiple times. Do Intress and I? Takinom asked him, knowing he'd catch on. Not to my knowledge. Maybe it's because you are both different species while her and her sister are practically identical and just reverse colors. Naruto said, offering his 2 cents. Takinom gave him that. It was impressive that the 2 sisters had such an effect on each other while being so far apart. She wondered what they would have been like if they had stayed together. The tribe in control of them would be powerful, she thought to herself, wondering what she and Intress could have been like if they were part of the same tribe. In all scenarios she saw a massive amount of bloodshed between themselves and the enemies that stood in their way. 1 hour later. Where is my booze? Chihire demanded, soon getting his answer, seeing Nevena trying to outdrink Naruto. Pups, he said in annoyance. Should we allow him to drink? The last time he did it in a bar, the end result was him beating multiple overworlders. Ajito said to Chihire. Give him as much booze as possible and send him to the overworld. Chihire said loudly as he was going to enjoy this, and then looked to Kaz. I have an assignment for you, he said with a smirk. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 4. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author pyrohelixdrago on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.